What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Endgame. It's mock draft time. One more time. Look, the season is almost here and redraft season. That's why we're here to get you ready, as we've been doing ever since last year ended. That's right. We've been mock drafting since February. Legitimately, right? I think we've been mock
Yes.
drafting every week since February. But here we are. And you might notice once again, it's not a lot of open spaces because, well, we got people who are already in. That's our loyal and amazing Endgame community. So before we get started, just a huge shout to our Endgame community who's been with us all off season. We want to announce something that's really exciting as well before we get ready for the start of this season. The off season still is here for a couple more weeks, and that includes best ball. So we have something very special from a partner that you might be familiar with.
Yeah, so for the second time, we have partnered with Underdog Fantasy, but if you've been around, this site is really growing in the fantasy space. Like Pierre said, they do best ball drafts. These are drafts where you basically just draft your team. These are big tournaments. You can see here $3.5 million, $15 million, $1 million prize pools. You can win a ton of money. They make millionaires every year. They're a ton of fun. You just draft your team, and then you don't have to do anything during the season. And then at the end, the team with the most points essentially takes home the prize. But if that's not your thing, they also have this really cool feature that I love. This is really fun during the season called Pick'ems, where they'll put stats up for players like you can see here. So these are season stats right here. So you would pick, for the season stats, but they also do this during the week, every week of the season. So for those of you who, love fantasy and you want another way to play and experience it, try to win some money. This is a great way to do it. So we put some up here that we like for the season. So I like Miles Sanders over half a receiving touchdown. He's going to be a pretty big pass catcher, I think, in this offense. I think he can get at least one receiving touchdown. And then I think this Austin Eckler one, 575 receiving yards. He's gone over 600 receiving yards every year since 2019, but one, and that was when he missed 6 games. So those two seem like locks to me. Pierre, you have a couple here too, right? Cam Akers.
Yep. I mean, you try to be impartial, but at this point, you look at a guy that you feel good about, and even if you don't love Cam Akers on your fantasy team, going higher on both of those, it just seems like a no-brainer. If you go lower, it's almost like you're betting on him to get hurt. That's all it would be. I mean, I think it's an easy smash there. I mean, he got to that point last year with only about 4 good games, and that was at the end of the season. So, I mean, to me, he doesn't even have to average 50 yards a game to get that. So easy for me to go higher than. Both of us have been talking about DJ Moore and drafting DJ Moore a whole lot here. Again, the only reason not to is because a lot of these, the far higher or lower, you're looking at last year. Can they go, above that threshold? Well, yeah, he's in a better situation, and it's going to be, I think, pretty easy for him to get that chemistry. So good player. He has a history of recording 1,100-yard seasons. Last year was kind of just a low for him. Much better situation. That's an easy hire for me. But they all can't be positive. Sometimes you see a problem, you're just like, I mean, that's something where you just don't want to go too optimistic.
Yeah, Juju only has 3 touchdowns over his last 21 games, and 16 of those are with Patrick Mahomes. He's not getting to 5 touchdowns with the Patriots. So once you make your picks, you can pick anywhere from 2 to 5 players. You place your wager however much you want, and then you can see here you win up to 20 times your money. Obviously, if you want to play it a little safer, you can go down. You win 6 times. Even if you just want to do 2 picks, you can win 3 times your money. So it's a great site. A lot of cool stuff on there all season long. They have playoff best ball as well. If you use our code ENDGAME or click that link right there that I pinned to the top, they will match your deposit 100% up to $100. So if you deposit $100, they'll give you $100. So you'll have $200. So check it out. Code ENDGAME. PlayUnderdogFantasy.com is the site. Use the link. Use the code. Check it out. It's a ton of fun. But that's not why you're here, right?
Oh, yeah. They're here. Look, we have a huge Underdog community already. We got a draft still going right now for our Endgame community with us throughout the offseason. And once again, which is why this draft is full. So let's get it going. What's the setup? We're back to 3 receivers, it looks like.
Yeah, so we're back to 1 QB, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, full PPR, and other John on the clock.
There you go.
So next week we won't be doing these mock drafts. We are going to be doing real fantasy football drafts with our subscribers. So if you want to get in those, you can still join at flockfantasy.com/endgame. We still have a few spots left in some of the leagues. $10 buy-in. Go to flockfantasy.com/endgame. Real fantasy drafts, real money drafts next week, starting next week.
And a chance to get your draft, your choices shown live. Whether you think that's a good thing or not, it's going to be a live stream, so you get a chance to show everybody your skills.
Yes.
So that'll be pretty cool. Not everybody gets to live stream their actual draft.
That's true.
Let's see. Bijan at the 3. I can't say that I hate it.
I can't say I hate it either. Still would go the wide receivers over him, especially in a 3 wide receiver league like this. I would still go the wide receivers over him, but I like seeing him as the RB1 off the board. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I gave myself probably my least favorite spot to draft from, and I see why.
Definitely.
This is exactly why. You know what? Even though it is 3 receiver, I'll go anchor RB.
All right, mixing it up. See, just so people know, we're not like, because we've talked about a lot this offseason about Bijan being the number 1, and people are like, you're crazy to have him over CMC. It's not like we're low on CMC. It's not like we're like, oh, CMC is going to bust. Just we like Bijan. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. It's back to back. I mean, the two of them very close between the two. It's CMC is still a first rounder, like no doubt.
Oh yeah.
And Lamb was there. I might go Lamb, but I entertained Kelsey. I'm just gonna go CMC.
Well, with Eckler off the board and Kelsey off the board, pretty much I'm going wide receiver here with St. Brown and Garrett Wilson. I'm A-okay with that start. And the dice, the Google dice, I guess it's really the Google die because there's only one of them. The Google die gave me the 12th spot tonight.
And you got the kind of typical start there. Sun God almost always goes somewhere there at the turn, and then you got Garrett Wilson. I know you're not sad about that, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not mad with that start at all. Not mad about that start at all.
All right. This one's an easy one. Yeah, although I don't say it makes me nervous, but you saw Derek Carr's perception profile came out. It wasn't that great. I mean, I guess there is a reason why they let him go from the Raiders.
Yeah, certainly not what you wanted to see, but I don't know. We know he's still going to pepper. We know he's still going to pepper
downgrade from Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I still think he's probably better than those guys, and we know he's going to pepper Olave with targets, and Olave is an absolute stud. So,
right. And think about Devontae Adams. He turned out okay last year with mediocre Derek Carr. So you don't have to have elite quarterback play to have an elite wideout if you're that good. Olave, I think, could be that good. So.
Are we going to look back at this time, these last couple of weeks here, where Jonathan Taylor has routinely gone like at the end of the second round and wonder, what were we thinking? How did we let Jonathan Taylor fall to the end of the second round?
Well, we can't. I can't even try to answer that because we don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor, and that's why he's dropping, obviously. But I don't know. It's also, I mean, think about it. Way before this happened, right? All throughout, the summer, he wasn't a first round pick because everyone was so disappointed from last year. He was pretty much a bust at the 1-1. So, no one, I don't think, was taking him in the first round regardless. And he hasn't fallen that far. So I don't think so. I mean, unless we think he does get back to what we expected last year, if he does all of a sudden become the best running back again in football. But I'm still, I don't think there's any team situation, anything that's going to make me put him over Bijan or CMC.
No, and he wasn't going to be over those guys, even if everything was good with Indy and he was fine. But remember, he was going kind of like he was a pretty much an early second rounder for most of the offseason. It's just been recently that he's dropped this far. And like, I think, we talked about it a couple times last year, although we did have him as the 1. Well, I think we technically had Jefferson as, maybe we had Jefferson just as a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know if we had him as a 101 overall, but we definitely talked about, I know I did at least, like Jonathan Taylor's RB1 season was one of the worst RB1 seasons we've seen in recent memory. I mean, it was still really good, but it was not like one of those like, oh man, like you had Jonathan Taylor, you won. It wasn't like one of those type of seasons. But I think he can get back. He's still a young guy. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. He's an elite talent. I think he can at least get back close to that. And if he does, like late second round is going to be a steal.
That is a good point, though. Exactly. Like he hasn't been dominant, for these multiple seasons or anything. I mean, it was not taking anything away from him. Obviously, he's a great running back. But yeah, I don't know that he's just going to automatically get back to that. There's plenty of guys who can contend with him. So yeah, I think where he's going is perfectly reasonable, even for right now. All right. Now I'm very tempted. I'm very tempted.
Oh boy.
Because I don't usually do this, but I'm looking at the board and this is what we preach. So I'm going to practice is you go with value, you go with the best player. You don't say, I'm just going to draft receivers from now on. So I guess I'm buying the dip. If there's a dip on Ramondre.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be thrilled to get him there late third.
Yeah, it's good value, but now in this format.
Now it's time to stockpile receivers.
Yes. I think the mistake a lot of people make in this format is, let's say they get Ramondre there, and then maybe a guy like Najee or Gibbs or Etienne or somebody like that is on the board when it comes back to them, and they're like, oh, I can't pass up on them. And now they have 1 wide receiver through 4 rounds.
Well, yeah, and I won't do that. And we give our constructive criticism and we say, well, getting that third running back before that third receiver, sure, you can flex that running back, but you don't want to be thinner at receiver. It's easier and probably just smarter to look for help at running back because that's where the attrition is. That's where it's easier to find somebody off waiver wire. It's a lot harder to find a wide receiver that can help you off waivers consistently. You're going to find those guys who are those like 1 week wonders, the guys who might have a boom game once in a while, but you're going to be adding and dropping. It's just it's a little harder. I'd rather have that, for lack of a better word, because I hate the word consistency, but at least the assuredness that I know I have a receiver I can count on. So you're helping me out. You didn't go receiver there. You went tight end.
Yeah, Andrews there. I was really hoping Andrews would fall to me there. Now I'm just debating what receiver I want here. I think he's okay here. I think it's my wide receiver 3 at this point. He's okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And with both Debo and, of course, Ayuk getting taken in the 3rd round, Clayton is tilting pretty hard.
Yes.
Didn't get Ayuk in the 4th. He didn't get even a chance. I didn't even get a chance to snipe him.
No, Clayton is certainly on tilt now. Both 49ers receivers are gone.
Speaking of Clayton, he asked, you mentioned this at the very top, league spots open for the redraft. There are. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 that are completely full, a couple that got like maybe 5 or 6 spots left.
I don't even think that many. Yeah, we have 2 that are definitely full. And then we have, let's see, I'll check right now. We have Oh, okay. We have 3 spots, 5 spots, 5 spots, and 6 spots. But we start drafting next week, and what I'm going to do is, they start drafting next week, so they're going to fill up here probably over the weekend. Clayton, you're already a member of Flock, so if you go into the Flock Discord and go into our Endgame Leagues channel, you can find all the links and join. But anybody who wants to get in those, again, we're going to stream them live. We're going to draft, against you guys, I guess, and play fantasy football with you guys. It's going to be awesome. If you want to be a part of that, go to flockfantasy.com/endgame, sign up. You also get awesome stuff like our rankings all season long, bonus articles. We're finally going to have the redraft course up this week. Help you with your drafts. We'll probably do, I'm guessing we're going to do like a weekly member-only live stream to help you with your lineup. So if you want access to all that, go to flockfantasy.com/endgame. Yeah, get in the leagues. Come play fantasy with us.
Get in the leagues. Somebody asked this yesterday. I guess it wasn't Scott. It must have been somebody else. We do IDP drafts. No, we haven't. It's just, I like IDP, but it's just it takes knowledge of IDP. I know what you're doing to make it worthwhile, but also it's just a lot more niche. There's not that many people who really do IDP. So I mean, we could, but I think we'd have a lot of people who normally tune in just kind of tune out because they don't know IDP or they don't care about IDP. So it's not that we don't like it. It's just not a lot of other people are really into it.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, man, just keeping up with all the offensive players is enough.
Yeah, exactly. We'd rather master one thing than try to, do too many. We do Dynasty, we do Best Ball. Now, one thing I don't know that I will ever get into, and I know I don't have time for, is Devy. When you start doing the college fantasy football and Devy leagues and scouting guys in high school, it's like, sorry, that's a little too far for me.
Yeah, that's a little much.
All right, now I do approve of this. This is Scott also. I'm gonna have to steal that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. If I get a Tua Bijan team, that is 100% my team name. That's pretty good.
If I get a Tua Bijan team, I'm loving it just anyways because I got Bijan on, my number one running back, and of course Tua is my favorite player. I'm gonna make sure that I have a Tua Bijan team just so I can use that. I'm definitely stealing that.
I mean, it's not too hard to get a Tua Bijan team, assuming it's one QB. Just get Bijan, and then Tua is pretty much wait till the later rounds, and you can he's almost always there. So it's not really even a hard team to get, honestly. But that's a great name. Did you come up with that, Scott? That's a very clever name.
Here's a good one. The Dak Street Boys.
There you go. Get Dak and Lamb and
Pollard. I think you'd have to have a stack to make that really work, right?
Yeah, you got to have the stack. You can't just have Dak or Lamb. I think you at least have to have like Dak and Lamb or Dak and Pollard.
You could get away with having Michael Gallup on your team. You can still use it. Any excuse to use
it. maybe. I don't know. That feels pretty reachy. I got Dak and Jake Ferguson. I'm the Dak Street Boys.
All right. Well, that's a little far. Yeah, Jake Ferguson, maybe not. But all right. So I did draft Terry. Look, I don't think Terry's too far down below. I know you feel kind of like that when it's like the DKs and the Kirks. Kirk was the other guy I was considering, and the Godwins and the Hollywoods. I think they're all kind of lumped together. Like there's not one that stands out necessarily. I mean, what do you think? You like Terry where I took him?
I'm coming around on Terry just because we're hearing good things about Sam Howell. So I feel like I don't think Terry's going to be. I don't think he's ever going to be the guy we expected him to be. Not that he's not a good player. It's just I don't think he's ever going to have the quarterback or the situation around him for that. But I think in that range, like I was debating him over Debo, to be honest. It was close. He's very close for me for like Debo, DK, Lockett. Probably like him more than guys like Kirk and Hollywood, Godwin. So yeah, seems about right for him right there.
All right. Sorry, he's not falling to you.
Yeah, I miss the days of like 7th, 8th round Jordan Addison. What happened to those days?
Nope. No more. Although, we're hearing positive buzz about KJ Osborne. I think he's still worth drafting. I'm not saying KJ Osborne is going to
Yeah.
outproduce Jordan Addison. I'm not saying that, but I
No.
think Osborne, where he's going, could be a nice value.
Yeah, because this is an offense we know it's going to be a top 5 passing offense again because their defense is horrible again. Their running back room got worse. Even though Dalvin is dusty, a dusty Dalvin is probably still better than Alexander Madison, to be honest. So there's room here for Osborne. He's not going to be he's not going to be a guy you probably want to start every week. But it's like a bye week fill in.
Yeah.
Keep
Not a
it like,
starting, no, not a third or fourth receiver in fantasy even, but guy with some upside, a bye week fill in. Yeah. See, Addison would have made it back to you anyways, even if I didn't take him. Mike had him queued up.
Dotson in the 5th now. Oh man, Zay Flowers in the 5th now. Whoa, my gosh.
Wow. And Clayton thought about taking Addison, but went with Lamar. I think that was a smart choice. Although,
I was gonna go zero. I was gonna go zero RB, but where are all the wide receivers? They've all been drafted already.
And Alexander's not super flex. This is not a super. We have done some super flex drafts, mostly when we do dynasty drafts or did dynasty drafts. Late for that, but this is not super flex. We don't do. We do mostly what most people do, right? Single QB. But yeah, we are fans of super flex. A lot of our leagues, usually our dynasty leagues are super flex, and our redraft are 1 QB.
All right. I guess I'm not going zero RB.
All right. Well, I figured, and that was my other option. If I didn't take Addison, I thought about Fields, and I knew you would take him if he was still there. But I think looking at the board, well, yeah, okay, good. I was gonna say I'm about to ruin it for myself, but no, one more peek. I think there's still gonna be a really good QB left for me, and looks like there is.
Yeah, there's plenty of good QBs, but it's just that, man, the wide receivers here already are like, they're fine.
Well, that's the thing here. If I do go QB, then what? Okay, well, you know what? Maybe that makes my choice easier because he did take Herbert. I'm fine with the QBs left. I'll just go receiver now. Take the highest upside player left because after this is like the tier cliff, isn't it?
I feel like we're already at the tier cliff.
Yeah. I think after
Yeah,
JSN, this is where the cliff officially ends.
I feel like he's
starts.
already off the cliff. He's already off the cliff for me.
He's not on. We were off the cliff before Jason.
Yeah, like when I saw him on there, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like I think he'll be okay, but
no, I think he's. Look, I think after him, and I might have put Burks up there before the injury and before the Hopkins signing, but like now there's just a bunch of guys. Like you're just taking shots, right?
I don't know. I feel kind of like JSN might be just a guy this year. Not that he's awesome. He's an awesome player. But he's got to compete with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf for targets in a not super high volume passing offense. Like I think next year, especially if they move on from Lockett, JSN will be a stud. He'll be a stud next year. I think if they move on from Lockett, I think JSN could outscore DK Metcalf next year.
Oh yeah.
But this year, the path for me, like I think you need like a Lockett injury, or you need Lockett to just become dust. And he didn't show any signs of slowing down last year, so I think JSN will be fine. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but I don't think he's going to be significantly better than like the other wide receivers on the board, just because of the situation.
Yeah, like we have our resident Seahawk fan. That's Mike, who pretty much always comes away with Tyler Lockett. Took him at the 4-4 today. Anybody out there? Screenshot. Take a screenshot. I have a quick grab thing.
I mean, hasn't Tyler Lockett been the wide receiver one in Seattle like almost every year. Like we always draft DK Metcalf as a wide receiver 1, but then by the end of the season, it's like, oh, Tyler Lockett actually had more points.
Yeah, I think that the take though is that this year with JSN on board, still having him as a wide receiver 1. I mean,
well, that's the thing. It's
possible.
like, what is this offense? I mean, we know DK Metcalf's going to be the X receiver. Like, okay, that's his role. He's going to be that guy. Are they going to run more 3 wide receiver sets? Is JSN going to be out there? Like, when they only have 2 wide receivers, I'm guessing it'll be Lockett and Metcalf, not JSN. Like, he'll probably only be out there in 3 wide receiver sets, but are they going to run a lot more 3 wide receiver sets? Will he overtake Lockett in 2 wide receiver sets?
I think it would be really dumb if they didn't use more 3 receiver sets. So it'll be interesting. I think those guys will all be pretty close, to be honest. I'm guessing 800, 900-ish yards for all 3. DK could break 1,000. DK just the thing with we don't know with JSN, because he did and probably will operate a lot out of the slot. DK, of course, has that superior speed and the big, obviously, frame. He's going to be the one getting the downfield targets, the big chunk plays. So that's why he's got a better shot, I think, to lead in yardage. It wouldn't surprise me if JSN leads in receptions. And then Lockett's going to be kind of, it's going to be, I think, just really close between all 3 of them. All right, let's see what we got here. Some tight ends. Well, I'm still going to wait. Actually, you know what? Maybe I won't wait.
These 3 wide receiver league
zone. There's not a single player here I really want to draft. I'm about to make a panic pick.
Panic picks are never good. I just realized Joe Burrow went in the, what is that, the 7th round? Are people that worried about the calf?
Apparently. That's one of those things, like news changes every day, right? We were hearing, oh, he might not be ready for the season opener, and Jamar Chase doesn't want him to week 5. And now today they're saying, like, yeah, he'll probably be good for week 1.
He's going to be fine.
I think he's going to be
fine. I'm starting to believe he does this just because he doesn't want to do training camp. Like every year it's something, right? Like appendicitis, coming back from the ACL, now the calf. He's like, just put me out there week 1. I'm fine. I don't need training camp. It's like Gronk, right? Gronk used to be like, he'd retire, and then like 2 weeks for the season, he's like, all right, I'll play. Fine. Now the training camp's basically over. I'll play. Oh, boy. Still no wide receivers. Man, I might actually have to take him.
All right, while you deliberate, I'm going to throw up some more team names here. Scott's got good ones. Discount Belichick, Kelsey Grammer, and the Mahomes Depot. All right. It's an easy one. You get Pat Mahomes.
Huh. Yeah, this team this is getting rough. It's getting rough in the wide receiver streets in this draft.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton. I don't mind Cortland Sutton. I'm shocked you didn't take Sky Moore, though. I was sure if I didn't take him, you would.
I've missed him somehow.
I feel like he's gotten buried. He's a little bit lower now.
Is he buried? Is that why?
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't scroll. I just looked at the guys that were there and picked one. Which is, by the way, it's a good little pro tip right here. Always before your drafts look at your site's rankings, because you never know like who will be buried on your site's rankings, and a lot of your league mates, kind of like what I just did, won't take time to look. And when it's their turn to pick, they'll just look at the guys who are kind of going around that range, like I just did, and just pick one. Like I know on ESPN. So if you plan any ESPN drafts, definitely go look at the rankings. But I know for a fact J.K. Dobbins is ranked 106. 106 for J.K. Dobbins.
Crazy.
And your league mates aren't going to look for him. So when it gets to like round 8, you can just be like, okay, now I'll take J.K. Dobbins.
That's the weird thing.
That's actually probably like the best advice I can give when it comes to drafting is look at your site's rankings, find guys who are ranked, who are buried, who shouldn't be buried, make a note of them, and then just, don't try to like gamble. Like if J.K. Dobbins is pick 106, don't be like, I'm going to wait till pick 106. Take him at pick 80, which is still way low, and just make sure you get him because your league mates won't scroll down to look. Most of them.
Yeah. And don't let those rankings or their ADP, whatever it is, sway you. And they go, oh, wait a minute. This guy's 20 spots lower. Why is that? Maybe I should be waiting. No, it doesn't matter because they come up with their own thing. Everyone's got their own rankings. They're all different. And you look at any expert or any site, whether it's ESPN or whatever, they're all different. And that's a reason. There's a reason for that because it's all basically guesswork because we don't know how these guys are going to finish the season. We don't. This is our best guess, but it's still what it is. This is what we think, but don't feel like you have to go by what someone else thinks. Go by what you think. Now, again, the strategy part of it, the thing that you can control is where you take a player relative to where he's going to get taken within that platform. So if a player is ranked 100 and you say, well, I think he's going to be number 50 and I take him at 50, that's not smart because you could have waited to get him 2 rounds later because no one else probably would have taken him that soon. That's the strategy part is really, it's like, Chris, you're familiar with this, playing poker. Is you got to read the room sort of, right? Which is hard if it's a bunch of strangers. If you don't know your league mates and who they like and how they draft, that makes it challenging. But that's kind of what it is you have to see like who's going to make the first move and how long you can wait. And, that's the part that you really have to be good at is knowing when you can take a guy that you want and when to wait.
Man, you getting Dallas Goedert at the 8 whatever makes me regret taking Andrews so early.
Yeah, he fell, and I think we had 3 different people say they were going to take Dallas Goedert. Clayton said he was going to flex Goddard if he was still there, just because he was going to take him for the value. But that's part of the reason here is Njoku was taken first. Njoku got taken before Goddard.
See, this is one of the things I do kind of like, with all the content we create, because we've talked a lot about Njoku this offseason. Haven't really talked much about Dallas Goedert, but that's because Dallas Goedert generally goes, and I like Goddard. I think Goddard will be very good this year, but Goddard usually goes 3 or 4 or 5 rounds earlier than David Njoku. So we just haven't really been talking about Dallas Goedert a lot because it's like, yeah, we can talk about David Njoku, who's a guy you generally get much later. But I think sometimes when we talk about these guys so much, then people who listen to us are like, well, I got to get David Njoku now because Chris and Pierre keep talking about him.
Right. That's one thing maybe we don't like explicitly state every time is, we like this guy for where you can get him. Like, we talk a lot about a guy like Njoku. We hardly really talk about Travis Kelce as a league winner because I don't really feel like we need to do that because I think we already know what you can get with Travis Kelce. So, there's a reason that happens. So it's all relative. It's all about where you can get him. And we usually try to say, like, if you're waiting on tight end, then you get Njoku, around where he typically goes. But anyways, I'm not saying that's a bad pick, but I would take Goddard first. But again, not nothing bad. I mean, where did he go? What round was that? round 8.
Maybe JCR thinks he'll outscore Goddard.
I don't think he outscores Goddard. No. So I'm taking Goddard before Njoku, but it's not a terrible pick. It's reach for sure, but it's not like you took him before, like Kyle Pitts or anything. Oh, thank you. I think Clayton did that on purpose. All right, I see you. I see what you're doing. There's not a single receiver I really want to take. Here. Not a single receiver I want to take here. And this is where the ranking thing comes in, because all the guys at the very top of the board here in wide receiver, I'm really not drafting any of those guys. Like, at all. Actually, 6.
All right, what do we got here? We have, I like him. All right, I at least see a running back I really like. All right, let me scroll this time. I don't think he's going to make it back to me. I'm going to have to do it. Don't think he's making it back to me.
No, he definitely would not have.
Yeah, I'm starting to come back around on Nico.
That's a wide receiver group, and just an offense in general. It's really hard to gauge right now. It's one of those teams that nobody really talks about because nobody really cares too much about them. It's like we just know they're not that great, and they're not going to be great. We hear about Bryce Young because he was a top pick. Stroud went, right after him, but nobody's talking really that much about Stroud. Nobody's talking about the Texans. Nobody expects anything from them, which it makes their receivers and everybody there a pretty good value in fantasy. If they do anything, you're pretty much getting plus EV, but it's hard to say because we both like Nico, right? I think, there's a good chance he's the number 1 receiver there.
Yeah.
I got to get my guy here before that running back really dries up. But now we're hearing a lot of hype of Tank Dell, and, kind of just dismissed him because he's kind of a smallish, not super fast slot guy. But then Stroud was like, you guys have to draft him. All right, fine, right? He wants his buddy, whatever. But now it's like he's the only one he throws to in practice, and it looks like he might wind up leading the team in targets. So now it's like we almost have to pay attention, because even though he's not going to get huge plays, maybe he does have a little like shake and bake. Maybe he can make some guys miss. Maybe he gets enough that he winds up being the most valuable guy.
We'll see. I've seen a lot of good reports about Nico Collins. Obviously, Tank Dell had that nice preseason game, but Nico didn't. I don't think Nico even played. I don't even know if Mechie played. Did he? He might have played. But I just think Nico, 30-year wide receiver. He's the X receiver. He's going to be out there like every snap. I think Tank Dell will have his moments, but I do wonder, like, when Tank Dell plays, big boy football, not preseason week 1 football, big boy defense come into play football, like defense actually out there, not running their vanilla defense, not running out, like looking at guys, like real football. Can he, like, look, CJ Stroud might want to throw him the football a lot, but can he throw him the football a lot is going to be the question. So
Yeah. And that's one thing, you mentioned anybody who wasn't here at the very, very top of the show, an underdog, those pick'ems that they have, and you look at CJ Stroud's, it doesn't look very optimistic for him. I mean, you go higher or lower, it was like I think 13 and a half interceptions or something. Like, okay, fine. He's a rookie quarterback. Maybe he does throw picks. But the touchdown threshold, I remember, was really low too. It was not even 20. And the yardage, I mean, I don't know. I I feel like it was not expecting very much. I was tempted to make those one of my picks. I actually went with Desmond Ritter. The very first one, if you go to the NFL season pick'ems, the very first one on the very top, because it starts with quarterback, was Desmond Ritter. And you see that one? It was like 15 touchdowns or 15 and a half touchdowns. I was like, I mean, what? He can't even throw one a game. Like that was, but I think Stroud's was pretty similar. Is not very bullish.
Yeah, so Stroud is at, let me see, I just had it here. Stroud is actually at 19 and a half passing touchdowns. So they expect Stroud to have more touchdowns than Ritter. 3150 and a half passing yards, and 13 and a half interceptions.
Yeah.
I think that would be a pretty successful year for CJ Stroud this year. 3,100 yards, 20 touchdowns. You'd have to feel pretty good about CJ Stroud going into year 2.
I mean, you don't think he can get those? You think that's, I don't know. I felt like that was a little low, even for a guy who's a rookie.
I mean, you look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence last year, he had 4,100 yards and 25 touchdowns. Like 20 touchdowns for CJ Stroud as a rookie in that offense feels pretty good to me.
And the wide receiver group we just talked about, it's not overwhelming. Like there's not a guy that's a stud there, but they have enough talent spread out there. And I think Mechie is kind of the key there. It's easy to say he's probably the most talented receiver they have. Obviously, just not on the field because of the whole leukemia thing. But, if he's good to go and clear, I think he could really step up. I think it's going to take some time, which I just noticed here right after. Not only after we started talking about him, but right after I took Tank Bigsby, Clayton took Tank Dell.
Tank picks back to back.
Back to back tanks. That's got to be a thing. There's an easy team name there somewhere. All right. Well, then here we go. Because I talk about Mitchie, I'll take it. I don't know. I think there's enough there. I guess is what I'm saying. And I like Stroud. I really like him. I don't think he's a guy who's going to throw a ton of interceptions. I think he's pretty accurate.
I like Stroud too, but you got to, rookie QBs, 20 touchdowns. I think if he had 3,100 yards and 20 touchdowns this year, we'd be feeling really good about him going into year 2.
Yeah. Not somebody, if you did pick him in Dynasty, that you necessarily want as your starter. I mean, in a super flex, you get away with him as your QB2. It's not ideal, but if you drafted him, you're probably rebuilding and don't really have a choice. Anthony's saying that he's probably just going to be running for his life. Well, their offensive line wasn't one of the worst last year, though, was it? I mean, if Tunsil's playing, they actually have a decent O-line. That's not I don't think that's not a concern. There's a lot of teams with worse O-lines than Houston.
All right, he's an option.
Then, well, talking about quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks specifically. So Heath took Anthony Richardson. I mean, he does go in the last round. At least he used to sometimes. There is still a team that doesn't have a quarterback. So if you're targeting him, get your guy. I don't think there's any problem with that, right? Richardson used to be just kind of a last pick. Now I think people see the upside round 11, right? I don't think that's too early.
No, and also you never know somebody's going to take. See, Zamir White's another guy I never think about because he's buried. This is why I need to be able to set my queue. Because I would have taken Zamir over Jerome Ford for sure. It's a good pick. And you never know who's going to take a second QB. right? You think like, oh, well, everybody has a QB but me. And then somebody grabs Anthony Richardson who already has a QB. And you're like, oh, what? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Oh, back to me already. See, I knew it. I always wait. I should have got Zamir when I had the chance.
This is why when we do the real drafts next week, I will actually have my rankings in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because we're still going to be talking and drafting. So,
yeah,
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And putting up comments. I want to get to this comment, though. I want to go back to this one. Let me see. Here we go. NMB. What's up, NMB? Okay. Talk about a guy who, again, very beginning, you did mention this prop. Pick 'em play for DJ Moore. Why so high on DJ Moore? He's never been a wide receiver 2. Okay, I'm gonna debunk that real quick. On a bad run heavy offense, he thinks it's exciting and flash speed, but no upside. You want to start with that?
Well, I'm pretty sure he's been a wide receiver 2 before.
Oh, he has.
My big thing is it's kind of like what I say with like Drake London. They're not going to be a super pass heavy team, but they're going to throw it enough to support DJ Moore. Again, like I said last night, we got Deebo Samuel going in the 4th, Brandon Ayuk going in the 4th, Christian McCaffrey in the 1st, and George Kittle went, well, he usually, I don't know where he went here, but he usually goes in like the 4th or 5th. And the 49ers threw it 31 times a game last year, bottom 5 passing attempts per game last year. And people are totally fine drafting all those guys. Like there's no issue, no concern whatsoever. So if the Bears throw it, let's say 30 times a game, that's more than enough when the competition here is DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Cole Kmet. Like it's enough. And look, Justin Fields, like you talk about last year, but Justin Fields, you go back to college, he was an accurate passer. He was a good passer. This isn't a guy like Trey Lance who threw 300 passes in college and is completely raw. He was a good, very good passer in college. So I believe that given the chance, Justin Fields, they will throw the ball more this year. DJ Moore will be far and away the number 1 target on that offense. They beefed up the offensive line. Yeah, I just think there's a ton to like about it. And look, I haven't drafted DJ Moore once, like ever. It isn't like his whole, never, not 1 year. This is the only year I've ever been on DJ Moore.
That's true. You used to be kind of anti-DJ Moore because you see, that the upside isn't there where he was being drafted, right? Because he was taken in the round 3 usually. All right, but here's the thing. Go back, and again, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. Never been a wide receiver 2. Last year, feels like he had a down year, right? It was kind of disappointing. Last year in PPR scoring, he finished as the overall wide receiver 24. That's a wide receiver 2, technically. The year before that, wide receiver 18. And the year before that, wide receiver 25. So he actually is a wide receiver 2 every year on a consistent basis. And that was with all the questionable quarterback play that he's had in Carolina. So I don't think there's any way he posts worse numbers as the clear number 1 guy, but also with an improving Justin Fields instead of guys like, Baker Mayfield, Taylor Heineke, old Cam Newton, Kyle Allen, whatever. So
PJ Walker,
PJ
Walker was his quarterback.
Huh?
PJ Walker was his quarterback. We used to talk about PJ Walker in our AAF video. He was actually throwing the football to DJ Moore in NFL games. What was happening in Carolina?
Carolina needed a quarterback. I'm glad they got the number 1 pick. Which, by the way, let me just mention that you might notice I'm adopting the Panthers as my second NFL team because my daughter now goes to college in Charlotte, and her campus is 2 minutes away from the Panthers Stadium, and the practice field is basically right there across the hall from her dorm. So I'm hoping that she winds up getting an internship with the Panthers in the next couple of years. and that I might be able to catch a Panthers game at some point. But they're officially my adopted second team.
There you go.
So
now, what are you going to do if the Dolphins and Panthers meet in the Super Bowl? Who are you
there we
pulling?
go. DJ Chark, have to have a Panther. Celebrate.
Come on, you know it's the Dolphins.
The Panthers, yeah, I think it might be a couple years. Mr. 305 here. What is up? Thank you for that. How the fourth pick? Would you take Tyreek Hill over Cup? I mean, if you're Mr. 305, you got to take Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I'm Tyreek Hill over Cup. I think Tyreek Hill has the potential for a huge season this year.
And not because of the injury, the Cup thing.
No.
You were taking Hill before.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth. I mean, I think it's look outside of injury and Stafford's elbow, Cup is definitely safer. I mean, I've talked about it a bunch. You look at every single game Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp played together, other than the game last year where Cooper Kupp got hurt and left early. 16.2 PPR points is his worst game. He had one game with like 11. Then every other game, playoffs, Super Bowl, every other game, 16.2 or more. That is just an insane floor. Like, you just know Cooper Kupp is not going to bust every single week. But I don't think he can get you those like 30, 40-point games like Tyreek Hill can.
Yeah, and it's funny because people will say, well, what about Tua? We don't know if he's going to, survive the year. I'm more worried about Stafford. He didn't survive last year. He missed a lot more games than Tua did, and he's a lot older. And so that's counterpoint to that. But let's go over the results. We got Other John at the 1. Almost started 0 RB. Went with Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, Michael Pittman, Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Burrow, Brian Robinson, Muth, Damian Harris, Tyler Boyd in round 11, Jaden Reed, and Chase Brown.
I mean, I know it's a 3 wide receiver league, and I know there's like worry about Jacobs, but man, Jacobs at the 5-1, that could end up being like, if Jacobs decides to show up and play, that could end up being just absurd. So obviously, Jefferson, Cooper, Watson, Pittman. Pittman is your flex. That's solid. You got 3 high upside wide receivers. If Jacobs plays with Aaron Jones as your RB2, this team could be an absolute monster. You got Burrow in the 7th. That's ridiculous too. Robinson, Freiermuth, Harris, Boyd, whatever, Reed, Brown. This team, I mean, if Jacobs plays, this team is an absolute monster. Absolute monster.
Yeah, I agree. It's usually hard to get great value there at the beginning. He did it. I mean, Jacobs, of course, is the determining factor, but yeah, Burrow late. I really like your running back depth even. Muth is solid there, so very nice. I want to actually, before we keep going, throw up this comment. So it looks like we have, and we are aware, this is YouTube, we have a global audience. So Moms, I think, saying fantasy football is not against everyone, small tiny leagues. Yes, you determine the size of your league. Usually 12 teams. You get 12 guys or girls against each other. You can do 14. You can do 10. Usually not more or less than that. You can do 8-team leagues, but don't recommend that. But that's it. It's just like this, just what you see.
Yep.
All right. We got team 2 is Heath. Went with Jamar Chase, JT. DJ Moore, not overvalued whatsoever. Travis Etienne, George Pickens, Elijah Moore, Rashad White, Charbonnet, Penny, Van Jefferson, Richardson, Mims, and then Dalton Schultz at the end.
I mean, it just shows you how 3 wide receiver changes things. We got Elijah Moore in the 6th round. Obviously, Taylor and Etienne, I think, are good values. If Taylor plays, I think that's going to end up being a steal. Chase, DJ Moore, Pickens is your wide receiver 3. I like having that, boom bust upside wide receiver 3. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think it's great. Elijah Moore is your flex. Could be good if he breaks out, of course. You could also flex Rashad White, who I think will be fine. So I think you're good at the flex. I like Charbonnet, I like Penny, Van Jefferson. I like that Richardson pick. Schultz as a late round tight end is fine. Another team that I really like.
Yeah, obviously good talent here. There's a lot of upside. It's a very risky team, I think. I like Pickens right there, so I'm fine with that. Elijah Moore, I personally like him. I think he could be really good, but it's not for sure. The running back depth is very kind of iffy there with Charbonnet and Penny to me, Richardson. So this is a team that's kind of living on the razor's edge a little bit, but I like that you took chances. Then we got Ronnie at the 3, went with Bijan. Ridley, still a second round pick at the 210. And then Hopkins in the 3rd round, Najee, Deontay Johnson, Trevor Lawrence, Brandon Cooks, Gibson, Dobbs. I feel like that's a little early for Dobbs to see him going in round 9. And then Mingo, Rashawn Johnson, Puka, and then Jake Ferguson. A lot of youth at the end of this draft.
Yeah, I like a lot of these picks. I mean, you could say Dobbs is early, but in this draft, man, I mean, you had to get your wide receivers while you could. I like a lot of these picks. I mean, obviously Bijan, love that. Najee at the 410 as your RB2 is fine, more than fine. Ridley, Deontay, Brandon Cooks is your flex or as your wide receiver 3. Again, probably going to be more of a boom bust guy, but I like that on my wide receiver 3. You could flex Gibby. I think the only pick I'm going to nitpick here is DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, there are just a lot of good wide receivers still on the board. London, Williams, even Keenan Allen, if you want to go with an old crusty guy. Ayuk, Debo, DK, Lockett, McLaurin, Kirk. I mean, I can just go down and down the list. Like maybe if Traylon Burks' injury had been season-ending, I could maybe get behind this because it's like, okay, now he'll have the target share necessary. But man, it's hard for me to see DeAndre Hopkins paying off an early 3rd-round value in that Titans offense with Burks expected to be back for week 1. So that's really the only pick. I like all the rest of the picks. I think this is another very good team. I just would have liked to seen a different wide receiver over Hopkins.
Yeah, I feel that's a little early for him. Agree with all that. It's just interesting to me. Like the starting team is kind of for fantasy NFL purposes, other than Bijan, kind of older, and then the bench is all super young. A lot of rookies on here. It's an interesting mix, and I think Jake Ferguson's interesting. I'm not starting him at tight end, so yeah, that's an interesting pick there. But we'll see how it turns out. The worst thing is you stream tight end. Oh well,
Yeah.
wouldn't be the first time that happens. Quickly, we just saw Jonathan Taylor taken there at the end of the 2nd round. Mason says that his draft is this weekend, probably. Where should I draft Jonathan Taylor? Round 2 to 3 if he plays is crazy. You think that's crazy? No, we kind of talked about this earlier.
I think late second is a good value. I think if he's there in round 3, I'm taking him every time. I'll gamble on it. That to me, round 3 is crazy. I think late second is pretty fair.
I think he's going kind of where he deserves to go, not assuming he won't play or, I don't think he's going to drag this thing out into the season, but we don't really know. I mean, honestly, we don't know. I would be okay taking him more in the beginning of the 3rd round rather than the 2nd round, though. Just kind of shows to prove that it's just better to go receiver early. All right, speaking of paper, went with Kupp, and then Tony Pollard, then Jalen Hurts, Hollywood, Judy, Swift, Connor, Ingram, Bateman, Jamal Williams, and then Jameson Williams, and then Lazard and Gallup.
I mean, love that start. Kupp, Pollard, Hurts. You could potentially have the number 1 wide receiver, number 1 running back, and number 1 QB. I'm not saying these guys are my picks to be the number 1, but they have that kind of potential. So that's fantastic. Hollywood is your wide receiver 2. I mean, again, the wide receivers just flew off the board. You got to do what you got to do. I do think there's wide receivers I like better than Judy here, but at the same time, it's probably hard to predict that Addison, Evan, or the guys like Addison, Dotson, and Flowers are going to go in round 5 because they rarely go in round 5. So maybe you figured you could get one of those guys on the way back. But he's your wide receiver 3, so it's okay. I like Swift and Connor as your running back depth. I think Connor is being severely slept on this year, and Swift has tons of upside. Ingram at tight end is good, and I like your bench pieces, except maybe Jameson Williams. He's not even going to be able to practice the rest of the preseason. He's suspended 6 games. Like, I just don't think he needs to be drafted in this type of format. But I really like the starting lineup. I like your running back depth. I like this team.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And he wanted to stay on there and sell Alan Lazard, pretend it's Calvin Austin.
I think I
That's
prefer
fine.
Alan Lazard, sadly.
Well, yeah. I'm not big on Lazard. I'm not necessarily drafting him. I mean, that's a whatever. It doesn't matter. If Lazard doesn't pan out, you can pick up Calvin Austin off of waivers, I'm sure. But it's funny you say that. I just drafted Calvin Austin last night, I think yesterday, in our underdog league for Endgame. We started one. I think it was Keith that started one, an Endgame underdog best ball draft. And only because I took Kenny Pickett as my second QB, I was like, okay, it's like the second to last round. I'll take Calvin Austin. He makes two big plays during the season. He pays off, right? So
Exactly. Second to last round and an 18-round draft. I don't think you need to draft Calvin
in a
Austin.
best ball draft, because in
Yeah.
best ball he's going to sit there, and if he has two good games, that's it. He's who's worth the pick. But in redraft, you kind of have to hold him as different. But I like the running backs here actually better than the receivers. Receivers are not my favorite overall, but I think this is a solid squad, and I do like the way you attack running back. I think that was really smart. The Swift Connor back-to-back picks. The Lizard King, which I believe is Yog or Yug, if I'm saying it correct. Ty Hill at the 5, T. Higgins, Derrick Henry, Chris Godwin, Breece Hall, Hawkinson, Watson, Dalvin Cook, Kadarius Toney, Algier Mooney, Rasheed Rice, and then Mostert.
Got the Jets RB stack. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. Interesting. Higgins, Higgins. That's great. Henry at the 3-5. I mean, that's fantastic value. Again, Godwin wouldn't be my pick here. I think Godwin will be okay. But again, like I said, with my wide receiver 3, especially when I got Hill and Higgins, don't give me like some safe, flourish wide receiver. Give me a wide receiver that if he goes off, I have no chance of losing pretty much. Because with Hill, Higgins, and Henry, and then if you had a guy, even like Pickens or whatever, if he goes off that week, chances are you're putting up a huge week and you're winning for sure. I don't know if I'm not sure I'm drafting Hall here. Probably not. I mean, I'm drafting him over Dobbins at this spot, especially now with Dalvin. But maybe it'll work.
Yeah, the middle part of this draft,
Yeah.
I can't get behind. I'm taking either Dobbins or Walker there instead of Hall. I'm not taking Hawkinson there. And I'm not taking Dalvin Cook and Tony. I mean, I guess where he went wasn't too early, but yeah, I don't love the middle part. I like the way you started. Your first 4 picks, you
Yep.
had a great core, but yeah, I just don't love the middle portion. And then the end, fine. Those picks are all good picks, but that's the only thing. And you could be fine between Hall and Cook, I guess. Well, no, even then, now that I think about it, I actually like it less because you're kind of splitting. You're going to have to decide each week. Is it Cook or is it Hall? Are you thinking, oh, the first half of the year I'll start Cook, the second half of the year I'll start Hall? It's not going to be that clear cut. It's not like they're just going to sit him out for the first 10 weeks and then Cook is just going to hit the bench. So you're really limiting your upside here at running back. I think if you're going to go with the Jets running back, which I'm not, but you just pick one, right? Just pick one and go with it and decide who you're going to get behind. So yeah, it was definitely for me the Hall and Hawkinson picks kind of just leave a bad taste in here. And it's not a bad team overall because you still have that core, but yeah, that's what I would do differently. Yo, Anthony went with Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith, Mahomes, Kirk, Dobbins, Mixon, Kittle, Burks, Kamara, Rondell Moore. We have another believer in MT here, round 11 this time, Zeke.
Man.
And this is just for you. All 3 of these picks were just for you, especially the Thielen pick.
This draft got real dusty real quick. And I don't mean like, I'm starting to tear up over here, although I might cry by looking. The end of this draft might make me cry. Like fantasy football pain right here. I mean, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott, and Adam Thielen all on the same team. Scott, are you still in here, Scott? It was Scott, right, with the team names. Scott, do you have a good dusty team name that we can get for Anthony here for this team? I love the start. Diggs, Smith, Christian Kirk. That's what I'm talking about. Like when you have guys like Diggs and Smith, give me a guy like Christian Kirk. Yeah, some weeks he might get 7 or 8 points, but it's okay. You have Diggs and Smith, and then the weeks where he gets 25, you win. It's like just you know what I mean? Just check it. Boop, I won this week, no problem. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Patrick Mahomes, so you're good at QB. You got Dobbins. I don't know if Mixon's the guy I'm drafting there. I guess he's okay. I think Kittle there is fine. When you get to the 7th round, if Kittle's still there, I'm okay with that. Burks, I think, is good there. And then we talked about the last half of the draft. We don't even talk about that again.
I just want to give just shout out to Anthony. You can tell a true endgame viewer. Every single pick I think was just for you, pretty much there. The Mixon pick, the Kamara pick, MT, Zeke, and Thielen. I love the commitment. It was the commitment. Yeah. All right. And I said this team should be called the Boneyard or something like that.
Yeah, Boneyard's good. Rust Buckets. If only he had Russell Wilson, it could be the Rust Buckets.
That would have made it, yes, a truly elite rusty team. All right. Clayton went with CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Drake London, Jahmyr Gibbs at the 4.6, Lamar Jackson, Cam Akers, Kyle Pitts, AJ Dillon, Devon Shane, Tank Dell, OBJ, Justin Ross, and Ty Chandler.
Man, this is a good squad. You got Lamb, Adams, and London as your 3 wide receivers. Gibbs there is fantastic. Upside potential at wide as your RB1. Lamar in the 5.7, that's really good. Akers is your RB2, is very solid. Again, Pitts at this range, guys like Kittle, Pitts, I'm willing to gamble on them for the upside. You got Dillon and Shane. Tank Dell, of course, because you talked about him. Okay, Odell and Ross don't really excite me. You got Chandler there, but these are your last few picks. I really like this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody knows how to tap into my heart on a fantasy football level, it's Clayton has figured it out. This is exactly the kind of team I would want. I mean, great core there, your 3 receivers. You have a ton of upside at running back, even on your bench. Huge upside at quarterback and tight ends. I mean, this is pretty clearly, I think, the best team so far, but we still have some left. There's my team. I went CMC, Olave, Ramondre, McLaurin, Addison, JSN, James Cook, Goddard, Prescott, Tank, Bigsby, Mechie, Kendry Miller, and DJ Chark.
Yeah, so obviously running backs are great. CMC and Stevenson's your RB2 is fantastic. And you still got good receivers. You got Olave, McLaurin, and Addison. That's very good. Between JSN and James Cook, you should be okay at flex. You got great value on Goddard. Dak is your QB. This might be the best team so far. I mean, you got 3 good wide receivers, 2 good running backs. You should have a good flex. You got a good tight end, a good QB. I think this is the best team so far.
All right, I'll take that. Yeah, the JSN pick is the one. It's like it could go either way. I mean, like Elijah Moore, kind of same type of thing, right? You expect good things, but you don't know for sure. But I think having James Cook there, and I don't normally say, well, I'll just flex running back, but you got a pass catching running back who could be a starter in a lot of leagues. I think I'm okay with that now that I see their what is this? A team name should be Snipe Melts. Oh, okay. Well, let's see how hard did I snipe you? But we're not there yet. I wasn't right after you. It's Mike first. Let's get to Mike first. All right. Besides Tyler Lockett, he did get Travis Kelce at the top, Nick Chubb, Mike Williams, and then Mike Evans, Justin Herbert, Madison, Javonte, Gabe Davis, Eli Mitchell, Rashid Shaheed, Tyjae Spears, and then Mayer's the backup tight end, which is interesting because you started with Kelce.
Yeah. I mean, just real quick, I'm going to say I don't really see the point of drafting Mayer because if you lose Kelce, your season's over. Like Mayer's not coming in and saving. I'm just being real, right? Like you drafted Travis Kelce in the first round. If Travis Kelce gets hurt, your season's over. It just is.
Yeah, and a rookie tight end is not going to save you.
Yeah, it's I'd rather just go with another position there. But that, that's a small thing. It's your last pick. You can always drop him and grab a waiver. It's not a big deal. But just something to keep in mind when you're drafting. Wide receivers, Mike Williams, Lockett, I think that's great. Evans, probably not my pick there. Just really worried about Evans this year with Baker or Kyle Trask. Chubb, I guess, is okay there. I'm going Pollard over him, but it's fine. Whatever. Madison, Javonte, Gabe, Mitchell. Yeah, the back half of the draft is kind of iffy for me. Like Madison seems okay there. Mitchell seems fine. Shaheed, Spears. Gabe, maybe he's okay. Javonte, I like parts of it. I don't like others.
One thing I'll also give props to Mike. He has conviction too. Like he stands behind his
Yeah,
takes and he doesn't back
for sure.
down. But let
Sure.
me just ask you this. Okay, so he took Lockett. Lockett's his wide receiver 2. Lockett in the 4th round. Could he have taken a Kirk or McLaurin or somebody else? Do you think Lockett's still sitting there the next round instead of Evans? And then instead of Williams, Lockett, Evans, who agree too soon for Evans, you're looking at Williams, Kirk, Lockett, something like that.
I mean, in this draft, I don't know if I can say for sure Lockett's there. I mean, again, we had Addison, Dotson, and Flowers gone before the end of the 5th round. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I could say for sure Kirk is there. Like, yeah, okay, I would prefer Kirk over Lockett, but Lockett's his guy. I'm okay with that. I think Lockett will be fine. I think it's just I just think there's wide receivers again that I like more than Evans, just because the situation with Baker and Kyle Trask. I think it's going to be hard for Evans as the deep guy in this offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Evans pick is a little too soon. Not that he's undraftable, but you could have got him later. I think pretty sure in this draft. And then again, just me personally, I'm waiting 2 rounds and taking JSN instead of Lockett there, and then taking a different receiver. But you think he's the guy? He's the guy. I trust you. That's your team. The running back, obviously, RB2 is the question, but that's where you want to take the risks. So you took smart risks, right? Madison has upside. Javante could maybe defy all expectations. We'll see. And then he did say he would have taken Jordan Addison instead of Evans if I had not taken him. But that's the way it goes. And then Meltz also would have taken Addison, but instead went with Eckler, Waddle, Keenan, Josh Allen, Dotson, Damian Pierce, David Montgomery, David Njoku, group of D's there, Juju, Jacoby, Jalen. I see a trend here. We got 3 D's, 3 J's. Zay Jones, Jalen Warren.
All right, so Eckler obviously very good. His I don't know if you saw him with Matt Harmon today on the Yahoo podcast, but they did bold predictions, and Austin Eckler's bold prediction was that he finishes as the RB1 again. So take that for what it's worth. Austin Eckler believes in himself. That's good.
Okay. It's pretty bold. It's spicy.
Yeah. Matt Harmon's like, so the player being drafted as the number 4 player off the board being great is your bold take, huh? Like, okay. That's not very bold. Anyways, I'm sure Austin Eckler is probably just now getting into fantasy season. He's been more worried about football. Anyways, you got Waddle, Keenan, Dotson as your wide receivers. I think that's great. I think Keenan is fine as your wide receiver 2. Dotson, again, another high upside wide receiver 3. I still think Josh Allen, especially in the 4th round, I think that's fine. Pierce, Monty as your RB2s is good. I like Njoku, but we did talk about it during the stream. I think Goddard is the pick there. You can wait longer on Njoku. If you really want Njoku, if he's your guy, you could probably wait till the next round or even later if you want. I'm not drafting Juju anywhere. I mean, we talked about it when we were looking at the underdog pick'ems in the beginning. I picked the under on 4.5 touchdowns for Juju. Only 3 touchdowns last 21 games with Patrick Mahomes for most of those. So bench is okay. I think it's okay, but I think the only pick is the Njoku pick. I think you just could have waited on it, but I think the rest of it's fine.
Everything you said, okay with. I mean, the running back group, I think I like the way you did it. I just can't stop noticing now because I saw these patterns. This is JCR Melts. This is Josh. I believe that 7 of your 12 players names start with a J. I wonder if that's a subconscious thing or if it's just a fluke thing. I don't know.
Huh.
But now I can't stop thinking about it.
Like he sees J dash and his brain just says click it.
Hey, it could be a thing. All right. We have something else. Appreciate the super chat from Senor 305. In a 14-team, 2 QB league, 3rd pick, do you go with a top quarterback or a top
QB?
receiver?
It's QB. This is a 2 QB league. That means you have to start 2. You have to start 2 QBs.
Yeah.
And I play in a 2 QB league every year. And let me tell you, you do not want to not have a second QB. Like you don't want to, be in a situation where you're running out to the waiver wire and starting, this week's second string backup QB because the starter got hurt as your QB2. You do not want that. You do not want that. You're at the 3 spot. You're taking a stud QB in a 2 QB league every single time. Doesn't matter who else is there.
Yeah, no doubt. It doesn't really matter which quarterback is there. You're going to get one of the top 3 QBs. Mahomes will probably go first, unless somebody else in your league thinks like, oh, maybe I'll take a receiver. Great. Then you get to choose between Mahomes or Hurts. But even so, you take whoever your favorite QB is left. If it's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I mean, it should be one of those guys. But there's no doubt. And you know what? Depending on how the rest of that draft goes, you might just want to get your second QB on the way back and then worry about everything else. But that really depends on how you.
No, our strategy in the 2 QB league is we want four quarterbacks that are starting quarterbacks, and we want at least two like top 15 quarterbacks, if not 2 top 10 quarterbacks. Because again, it's not like Superflex where it's like, oh, like, okay, my number 2 QB is Matthew Stafford and he's terrible. It's fine because I can flex, like I can flex Sky Moore or something like that. Maybe he'll have a big game this week. You don't have that luxury in 2 QB. You have to start a second QB. So I want 4 guys who I know are going to be starting QBs. Now because look, you might have a guy get hurt. You might have someone get hurt. Like we saw Tua last year, Matthew Stafford, whatever, Lamar. You don't want to be left out to dry at QB. We see it all the time in that league. There's always guys at the end of the season who do not have a QB2 because they didn't prioritize it in the draft, and now they don't even have a QB2. And especially in a 14-team league,
that's what I was going to say. This is a 14-team league. Yeah, sure. There are 32 starting quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks are there that you really want starting in your lineup in fantasy? You don't want to be the guy who has to roll out like Jimmy Garoppolo every week or Ryan Tannehill. You don't.
Or worse, Kyle Trask when Baker Mayfield gets benched or
whoever. Yeah.
Or Stetson Bennett when Matthew Stafford gets hurt. Like you don't. That's not that. You might as well just like wave the white flag and say I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely go QB. All right. Let's get one more team in, and then we'll get to yours. Andrea went with A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Ayuk, DK, Zay Flowers, Miles Sanders, Quentin Johnston, which I'm pretty sure is officially her guy now because I think she always gets Quentin Johnston. And then Sky Moore, Samaje Perine, Darren Waller, Foreman, Zamir, and my guy Tua.
Well, she didn't get Bijan, so she can't do the to Affinity and Bijan, but this is still a really good team. I mean, A.J. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, DK is your wide receiver 3, Flowers is your flex, Barkley and Sanders is your RBs. And then you got Johnston, Sky Moore. You got some potential upside there. Perine. I'm not a big Waller guy, but when all those other tight ends are gone, I think Waller is more than fine at that spot. Foreman, Zamir, Tua is your last quarterback. It's close between her and you for the best team here. I think it's definitely between you guys for the best team.
Yeah, very solid. And again, I don't love Waller, but where you got him at the 10th round and after everyone else had taken tight end, I think that is perfectly fine. You do have upside because Johnson isn't starting for you here. He's a bench player, and you got Sky Moore, so you have a lot of upside at your bench. And of course, the Zamir pick, I'm behind that, and the Tua pick, I'm behind that. So this is, really good squad. Before we get to the last team, which is your team, appreciate you, Anthony. So can't wait to draft for real. It's coming, guys. It's coming. When it's real, it definitely gets a lot more enjoyable. Thank you to everyone, of course, for watching. All right, so before we wrap up, let's go to Chris, team 12. Went with the Sun God and then Garrett Wilson, Mark Andrews, Debo, Fields, and then here come the running backs. Kenneth Walker, I feel for a pretty much 0 RB build, that's a pretty good running back to have. And then Pacheco, I think we could just put a stamp on it. Pacheco is your guy now because you draft him way too much. Cortland Sutton, Khalil Herbert, Nico Collins, KJ Osborne, Jerome Ford, and Jeff Wilson. All right. Receivers, clearly not an issue because you went with 3 studs there. But your flex is going to be Sutton or Nico?
Yeah, or maybe Herbert if he's a starter. But yeah, I mean, this draft, like I like the way this draft started, but man, I was not ready for Addison, Dotson, and Flowers to all be gone by the time it got to my 5th pick. I really thought I was going to go with a wide receiver there, and then I was probably going to go Fields and wide receiver, and just wait even longer on running back. But I had to pivot. I'm fine with Kenneth Walker as my RB1 that late. Pacheco, I wouldn't say Pacheco's my guy, but I mean, who am I? Like maybe AJ Dillon over him. I felt like it was too soon for guys like Gibson, Charbonnet, and Robinson, but maybe not because they went in this round. So I kind of just I would say I settled on Pacheco. Obviously Sutton, I probably should have taken Sky Moore over Sutton, but I think Sutton will be okay. So I love the start. I don't really like the middle end of this draft, to be honest.
I'm just really surprised you didn't take Sky Moore because I know you're big on him. And Sutton, I'm taking Sutton in some drafts, usually preferably like around later, but yeah, he probably wouldn't have been there, so that's fine. Look, for a zero RB build, getting Kenneth Walker as your RB1 is great because you took him pretty late. And we also have to remember, because you'd say, well, the flex is an issue. You got Mark Andrews, you got one of the best tight ends in the game, so we can't just ignore that. He's basically like a high-end wide receiver too, so. Super strong. As long as your RB2 is, pans out between either Pacheco or one of those guys, I mean, definitely a contender, especially you got Fields and that upside. So it's really good. Don't forget, you can draft with us for real. The real drafts and the live streams on those drafts are going to start next week. You can still join us. There's a couple spots left in some leagues. You can draft with me, you can draft with Chris, or you can draft with both of us. Flockfantasy.com/endgame. Check out and see where the spots are available. Just sign up for any sort of membership and you'll get access to that. Oh, and also everything else that comes with it, like our rankings, articles, videos, things like that. Everything else, including the draft domination course, where we put it all together in a nice, easy to view, short, easy to digest video course where we tell you how, not just, oh, we like this guy, we like that guy. We give you the strategies, those tools, so that you can draft smart, not just now, but going forward. All right, guys. Yes, this has definitely been fun. And also don't forget Underdog. Very excited about that going forward. Check out all the information. If you're not on the Discord already, you should be in the Discord, of course, get that membership for Flock. But you don't even need that. Join us on Underdog if you aren't already on there. Code ENDGAME, and you get 100% deposit match. So there's the link. More information coming on that as well. We're going to do a lot more with that. So that's it. We'll see you guys next week for some real drafting.